The first time I ever experienced racism, or just even thought about race as a whole, was when I first moved to Australia at the ripe old age of 14 years old. Now, before I continue this conversation, I've done a... Oh my lord. Okay, wait, I don't even have the key on me. I've done a lot of stuff off camera. I went to the dungeon and I got new weapons, new armor. Cool. I want to start off by saying this is a topic of conversation that I'm very reluctant to talk about. Because in my experience in the past, talking about this type of thing on social media is generally not met very kindly or well at all. I get blamed or I get accused for trying to be a victim, acting like the victim, like, you know, people saying, it basically brings out the worst in people. People become more nasty. People say, oh, you deserve this. This is your fault, blah, blah, blah. Maybe if your ancestors weren't so terrible, you know, people just say horrible, nasty things. And that's not, again, I'm not trying to act like a victim here. I just want to share my experience because I couldn't think of anything else to talk about today. That's literally why. And also because I'm going to forget 90% of the things that I plan to talk about as per usual, so I'm probably going to miss out a lot. But getting into it, the first time I ever experienced, or I'll say the first time I ever really thought about race is probably the better way of putting it, was when I moved to Australia and I previously lived in New Zealand. Now, this is something I talked about already, but I moved to Australia at age 14, and it wasn't really my choice to do so. You know, we just upped and moved, and I had to suck it up and deal with it, basically. And I struggled, as anyone of that age would struggle, in a new country, new people, new school, don't have any friends, you know, things like that. And the other thing I struggled with, and the main reason why this has sort of become such a defining just a defining thing about me all of a sudden, like something that I never used to think about at all is suddenly very prominent in my life, is because I went from going to attending a public school in New Zealand to attending a private school in Australia. First of all, in my experience, and people don't like it when I say this, they say, get out my country, blah, blah, blah. But Australia is an extremely racist country. I think this is pretty common knowledge to this point. Yeah. Also, again, before I go any further, I want to say I'm not black. Maybe in Western countries I'm considered black because that's kind of how it works. People of mixed race, you're black. But where I come from, I'm colored. Because there's a lot of mixed race people where I come from, and generally black and colored are two different things. But I guess living in Western society, that doesn't matter. You know, I get treated like I'm black. I get called black. People view me as black. So I guess in a way I've started to view myself as black, even though I know that's not what I am. But anyway, God, I have so much I could say on this topic, and getting all my thoughts in order is going to be very difficult, and properly expressing myself is going to be very difficult. But I'm going to do my best. And when I say the first time I noticed race as like actually being a thing was when I first started going to school, because one of the first things I noticed was, whoa, why is everyone white? And that sounds terrible to say, like that's, you know, maybe I'm being racist in saying that, but that was just so new to me, coming from a country, New Zealand, which is generally known for being extremely multicultural, extremely welcoming, extremely, you know, I just never had any bad experiences relating to race living in New Zealand, or not ones that I was conscious of, at least. And you know, my in my school setting, I was surrounded by people from all different backgrounds, partially to do with the fact that it was a public school, and then I was moving to a private school. So yes, Australia is also very multicultural, very diverse. Uh, Nowhere near as diverse as New Zealand is, and especially not at a private school where only people with money are able to get in, unless you're on scholarship for whatever reason. Um, and you know, generally in society, uh, or Western society, the more affluent people are white people. That's just the reality. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That's just how it is. And if you disagree with me, you're just wrong. And so the two first things I noticed were, why is everyone white and why is everyone so tall? Because I went from being one of the tallest people at my school to suddenly, because I hit puberty early, to suddenly everyone else is taller than me now, which kind of sucked, but that's completely irrelevant. But I'll tell you what really didn't help with this whole feeling is the fact that I moved to a new country and I didn't know anyone. So already I feel out of place. I feel different. I mean, I'm in a completely new environment, private school. I never wanted to go to private school, but it's just what happened. And I just had to deal with it and navigate it and figure it all out. And I don't know, and I feel like any colored person living in Australia has experienced something similar to this. But for some reason, white Australians are so fascinated by black people. They see you, bro, I'm gonna die first. Oh my gosh. They see you and they're like, they want to be your friend. They think you're cool, just without even knowing you. And I'm not saying that that's racist at all, because it's not. But it just exaggerates this feeling that you already have of being so different. Like people putting you in a box and people saying, oh, you're black, you're this, you're that. It just makes you notice how much more different you really are than all these other people. Not to mention my upbringing, completely different to all these people. Because yes, I'm in a fortunate situation now to be able to afford private school, but that definitely was not the case growing up. I didn't check what loot I got. I wanted the Pixel. 5 beetle husks? Are you kidding me? That is such a scam. I didn't actually get anything out of that fight. Let's go fight Duke Fishron, or attempt it, at least. This is probably going to be a long video, because it's going to take me a long time to collect my thoughts and sort of understand how I want to say things. But yeah, being constantly asked questions about you, and you know, people assume things about you, and people, you know, come up to you and just say, oh, you're the new black kid. It makes you feel very different and very not welcome, even if that's not the intention of people. That's just my experience. But what didn't help is I was the only black person in my entire grade at this school. And before I got there, there was one other black kid, but it just so happened that the year I got there was the year that he left. And so, you know, everyone starts saying, oh, we got the replacement black kid, things like this. And I'm like, it just sucks to hear stuff like that. It honestly just does, especially when you're trying to, you know, attune to something new. And then I hear, I don't know, anyone who's ever lived in Australia as a young person knows that this is true. White people, Asian people, Indian people, all people just love saying the N-word. It's probably apart from cunt, I'm gonna die. Apart from cunt, it's probably the most used word I've heard while living in this country, from the mouths of young white people. They just love it. They love the word so much. And obviously, I don't really take kindly to that. Yeah, I guess maybe I shouldn't be so offended, but at the same time, why does someone feel the need to say that word? Because I don't even say it, unless it's in a song. Man, he was on, like, no health. Really? I mean, I don't even feel the need to say that word. Unless it's, like, in a song. which, fair enough. Like, I don't know that I'm just gonna say it in a song because it doesn't matter. It's not like, but anyway, I don't know. I just always took issue with that, and people don't care if you try to raise it up, especially in a private school. Either teachers won't believe you, or you don't. If you, I never brought it up to a teacher ever because I'm not a snitch, but that's part of it as well. And then if you bring it up to someone, other people, and you say to them, look, this isn't cool, I don't like that you're doing this, that I find this very disrespectful, things like that, then you get met with, oh, stop being such a pussy, stop taking it so seriously, like, we're not racist, we're not trying to hurt your feelings or anything. I'm like, well, then stop saying it. And they're like, and then it's just, it's a cycle. It's like, well, just stop being a pussy and maybe it won't hurt your feelings. That's the reality of living in Australia as a coloured person. That's just how it works. And it doesn't help that so many people so many black people living in Australia have just kind of gotten used to it and started accepting it. They realize they're not going to change people. And yeah, you're not going to change people. I recognize that as well. And great start to this fight. I recognize that I'm not really going to be able to change most people who I say this to either. But it's just, if I can say something about it, and I'm going to, because it bothers me. And I think if you saying, doesn't matter if the word is, this is a whole rant about the N-word, which is not really what I wanted to focus on. But anyway, I find, even if it's not directed at me, even if you don't say the word in malicious and with malicious intent, is still disrespect. You shouldn't be saying the word, but you decide to say it anyway, and you know that I'm in your presence, and you know I don't like it. It is just probably the most disrespectful thing you could say around me, other than, I don't know, I fucked your mum, something like that. Like, it's for me personally, it's more a case of respect than actually being offended by the word, because again, in most situations, it's not used with malicious intent. And then what doesn't help is teachers, because teachers will hear I went to a boys' school, so all the boys saying, and girls say it just as much, if not more, by the way, which I was surprised to find out. Teachers hear people saying this, they hear it, and they don't do anything about it. They couldn't care less. It's not an issue that they want to deal with, so they don't do anything about it, which really just sucks. And I'm gonna go back to the whole feeling different thing. Everyone's saying all these things, and the biggest thing for me in my first year of school is people like to come up to me and just touch my hair. Like, no, they wouldn't ask, they'll just sneak up behind me and they'll just come grab a fistful of my hair. And I eventually, that's the thing that made me the most irrationally angry. Like, I couldn't handle it. One guy tried to get me in a fight with me because he touched my hair, and then I responded poorly. I was like, do it again, no, that's not true. I'm lying. I was like, can you not do that, please? And he just kept touching it, and then it kept escalating, and then, fists were up. The only reason there wasn't a fight is because a teacher came in, like, as soon as it started to happen. I feel like there's just this thing, as soon as you tell someone you can't do something, they want to do it so much more. And it doesn't help when you're around the wrong people, because if they see that you're offended or that it makes you uncomfortable to hear someone say that word, then they just want to say it even more. And I do feel, and one of the reasons why I don't give up and I don't just ignore it, and why I continue to call people out, is because people who I'm close friends with, who I met, and they used to say this word, they used to not care, after hanging around with me for a long time, I don't know what they do when I'm not around, but at least when I'm there, I know that they don't say it anymore, and they now realize that actually this is extremely disrespectful, this is awful. So if I have the ability to change the mind of close friends, maybe I have the ability to change the mind of people who don't give a shit about me. That's probably not true. But yeah, it was the whole, like, I felt so lonely already, having no friends. And then people wanted to be friends with me. Like, people thought I was cool. People thought I was mysterious, nonchalant, because, you know, that's just what was happening. That was what was all over the internet at the time. Like, Duke Dennis was popping off, nonchalant, blah, 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 you know, shit like that. Most of these kids have never interacted with a black person in their life before either. You know, private school, that's kind of just how it is. And they just didn't know how to interact with me, a lot of them. And they didn't know what was disrespectful, and they didn't know what was acceptable. They didn't know what was a joke and what was taking it too far. And I'm not blaming these guys. Well, I am blaming them, like, if they continue to do that after I've raised my voice and say I have an issue with them, then it becomes an issue. But, you know, if people misunderstand, especially younger people, like grade 7, 8, 9, like, they generally just don't understand. And you can't blame them for that. And I will say I'll never get violent over something like that, or at least try not to, unless they're the one instigating, like the fight that almost happened that I just said. But I want to take away from school now, and I want to talk about the general public, because again, Australia is. I'm not saying Australia is a bad country. I'm not saying I don't want to be here. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying Australia is an extremely racist country, and that's just a fact. I mean, people don't even like it when the original, indigenous people of this country speak up. Like, people hate that here. People absolutely despise it. I mean, people boo. Like, anyway, that's not what I don't need to talk about that. Fuck, train of thought. Alright, let's just see what happens if I try to fight the cultist. Probably not going to end well, but let's just do it. People in the general public don't like me either. And this is something I never, ever experienced for myself living in New Zealand. I mean, maybe I did and I just didn't notice, but I don't remember it ever happening. So it was all new to me when I moved to this country. And this one, hit it, please. Thank you. And like, my experience in the general public, when I'm looking like this, when I'm presented myself like this, like my hair's out, natural, you know, I experience it less. But something about me is I love having my hair in braids, because I just hate dealing with this long hair, and I don't like when my hair's short either. So like, braids are like the perfect balance for me personally. But you sort of see the change in people when they realize, when I have braids, the way people act around me in the general public changes so much. And I'm not sure if it's because maybe I look pretty racially ambiguous, which I know I do. So like, if my hair's curly like this, people generally don't know that maybe like I'm black or whatever the fuck. And when I have braids, it becomes more obvious that, yeah, I have African heritage. And people treat me differently. I'll get into an elevator and the person that was in there will straight up just walk out, or they'll go stand in the corner of the lift, like shaking. They're terrified. And it just sucks. It just sucks. I mean, security, if I walk into a Myer or a David Jones, those are the stores where people get their perfume and high-end clothes and stuff like that. If I walk into a store like that, like, you best believe I'm getting followed around by a security guard. Like, and it sucks. It sucks. And then you hear people say things like, oh, I wish I was black. Like, so many people say that. I'm just like, why? And I'm not saying I wish I wasn't, and again, I'm not. But just be happy with yourself, man. Like, why would you want to change something so integral to your culture and the way you grew up? And, you know, I feel like part of the reason the racism occurs is because of some sort of jealousy, potentially. I don't know why you'd be jealous, but some people just are. some people just wish that they were someone different, someone that they're not, which is unfortunate. I don't really have any deep insights on that. It's just unfortunate. I wish people could be more comfortable in their own skin, and people don't understand. People generally think that racism doesn't exist anymore. White people, I mean, because if you're not white, then you know that racism still exists because you've experienced it. And if you ever try to speak up, especially on social media, people don't take kindly to it. They don't take kindly to it at all. They see it as an offense to them, when realistically, I don't know. I'm really struggling to get my words out here, and I'm trying to say this all without being a victim and without, ruffling too many feathers. And I also don't want to get too personal online. But I just felt like sharing this today. And I will say, the older you get, the better it gets, because people become more, or at least for me here, people become more, well, I guess I've surrounded myself with better people, that's part of it as well. But people just become a bit more open, a bit more understanding. They realize that what they're doing might be wrong, which is good, which is really good. And I'm not sitting here, I'm not going to try suggest any solutions or anything like that, because I'm just not trying to do that today. I'm just trying to speak on my experience, just get it off my chest, I guess. And I wonder what it would be like in the US, because it's treated so differently there. Right, or at least as far as I know, especially in a city like LA, if you're caught being racist or saying something racist, you are socially ostracized. Here, absolutely not. It's just the norm. You just have to fucking deal with it. And something, okay, this is what I wanted to say that I kept forgetting. Being an immigrant, I guess, moving to New Zealand when I was so young, not having any family apart from immediate family. Generally, I was never really exposed to many other black people growing up. I didn't really have many black friends or anything like that, which I never saw as an issue or anything. But I do think is an issue now. Is this just kind of weird, to not really. I don't know how to word my words. I'm really struggling right now. But it was only recently when I sort of started getting more into the creative space and going to events, rapping and rapper events and fashion brand events and modeling events. And I've sort of found a community. It's not just black people, but there are a lot of black people. I've sort of found that sort of community for the first time in my life outside of when I go visit my home country. And it's really nice. It's so nice to know that people are similar to you and have experienced similar things to you, and you can, even if we don't talk about it, because I don't really, this is not really something that I ever talk about, it's just something I think about. It's just really nice, and I wish that I had more of that growing up in my younger years. I really do, because I guess in my younger years, my only exposure to black cultural, I guess Western black culture, is what you see online, Dick Dennis, athletes mainly, because I love sport. I've always watched a lot of sport. Yeah, it affects you. It really does. Not growing up around people of your culture and stuff like that. It does affect you. Yeah, I have a lot more to say, but I don't know how to verbalize it properly. And I kind of just don't really want to anymore. So, pretty unsuccessful video in terms of gameplay, but I appreciate you for watching if you got this far. And I'm gonna keep try streaming, so Thank you for watching. I appreciate you.